Hello, Cosmic Soul family. Ella Ivy here with livzenastrology. Just going to make sure that I'm going live here on Instagram. All right, just making sure that it's popping up here. Thank you guys for your patience. How's everybody doing today? It's been a while since I've gone on here live. It's been a lot of energy, a lot of transformative frequencies happening. It's been honestly hard to appear here. I've been doing so much shadow work integration, dying, being reborn within my own psyche over and over and over again. It's an ongoing process, and it never stops, really, truly. Being a sun, moon, and Mercury Scorpio person myself with Sag rising, I'm very familiar with Scorpionic energy and the intensity of it, especially feeling like things are always dying. It's like the death of a relationship, the death of a chapter of life. I guess in this incarnation, my particular blueprint has been to really supposedly moon is our mastery and the sun is where we come to shine. And so since I've got the sun and the moon both in Scorpio, it's like I guess I feel, based on the archetypes, if you follow that in astrology, that the Scorpio energy is all about the transformative energy. So in my moon, and it's in the 12th house, it's showing me these are things that I've mastered perhaps in past lives. And in the Pisces house, it's the house of disillusion. It's the house where we bind ourselves. Historically, in astrology, it rules asylums, imprisonments, where we imprison ourselves in our own mind, the way we think, the way we are projecting our reality. And so the sun in Scorpio in the 11th house for me, astrologically, I guess I'm here to show and shine a light on these, I guess, underworld, undercurrent archetypes of Scorpio, because I've been so versed and so really deeply embedded into this particular energy, and especially being around the spiritual community and being around the conscious community. I'd rather call it rather than spiritual, because we're all spiritual, all spiritual. But some of us are more conscious about our connection to our inner and outer realms. And Scorpios especially tend to go deep, right? We penetrate, we like to go to the depths, the underworld. If you look at the archetype of Scorpio, it's very much about the underworld. It's about things that are hidden. It's the parts of us that are repressed, that we don't really like to look at. It's our shadow selves, it's like the excrement of society. It's the things that we have to ferment for things to come back alive. I think in the fermentation process, right? Divine alchemy. So this has been a lifelong journey for me to really integrate these energies. I guess from my past mastery, if you're following the precepts of what we learn astrologically about these archetypes, that the moon is the mastery. So I've mastered Scorpio, and with the sun in Scorpio, I'm here now to illuminate, I would say, the shadow aspects of us, and not to be embarrassed by it, not to be ashamed of these shadows, because we all have them. So what we're going to be talking about in this particular presentation is the Mars ingress into Scorpio, what that can signify. We have not seen Mars in Scorpio since October of 2023. That's what I was looking at in my ephemeris. We're also going to be talking about the Sabian symbol today for this upcoming full moon in Aries. And it's going to be at 14 degrees, 8 minutes, exactly what I was looking on my chart here. But when you look at the Sabian symbol, it's basically what the symbols are is a psychic in the 1930s by the name of Elsie Wheeler in 1925. She coordinated with an astrologer named Mark Edmund Jones. And what they did is they put together a series of 365-degree visions per the astrological wheel to show basically the energies behind each degree point. So we're going to be looking at the degree point of 15 degrees of Aries, because the way the Sabian symbols go, you always look a degree ahead. So because the transit's going to be happening at 14 degrees, 8 minutes, we're going to be looking at the 15th degree of Sabian symbol. And I guess the theme of this particular transmission, well, there could be a lot of themes, really. Talk about death in the underworld and, the transits that are going to be happening around this full moon energy. But we're also going to be looking at, really becoming the sacred craftsman The sacred craftsmanship of becoming, of alchemizing our lives. And the only way to do that is by integrating the shadow, is by acknowledging and integrating our shadow aspects. And really, and if you can, the next level would be, in my perception, would be to love those shadow aspects, right? To really not only own those parts of you that maybe you don't like by acknowledging them, but also to love them as maybe disowned parts of ourselves that maybe we have incarnated with in past lifetimes, or other experiences. Who knows how this karmic wheel really works, right? So at this point, everything is just a hypothesis and a story. So whatever story that you're working with during this time, during this transit, it's going to either empower you and allow you to have a grand experience, or it's going to weaken you. You know, hell and heaven exist simultaneously. It just depends on which frequency you're tuned into. So this can be the hell realms for a lot of us, or this can be the heavenly realms, depending on what energy you feed, what vibration or frequency you tune into most. But I would say, again, with all the scorpionic energy, you cannot repress the shadow, because that which you try to repress will just come out in full force even more. I think of like a volcano, right, exploding. Because in the traditional rulership, Scorpio is traditionally ruled by Mars, and the modern rulership is Pluto right now. So we know that Pluto is in retrograde in Aquarius. We know Mars just ingressed into Scorpio, so it makes it very powerful. It makes it very focused. Scorpios tend to be more focus driven anyway, very penetrative, very research mode. You know, once a Scorpio gets his teeth into something, it really doesn't let go, and it tends to look at things that are more that are hidden. You know, we like to look at the underworld again, wonder what's underneath the rock, right? Explorers and into the inner caverns of our psyches. We don't mind exploring and seeing what's there, but it's not always easy. This is not an easy transit. And especially with Saturn having gone retrograde into Pisces, you know, Saturn is already constrictive because it's ruling planet. Pisces, it's constricting Pisces because Pisces likes no boundaries. And so it's showing where we constricted ourselves, where we put these labels, or we bound ourselves in our own mental prisons or our own spiritual prisons based on our belief, right? So we're having to retrograde, go back and redo, reorganize, relook at where we have bound ourselves in this underworld cavern of our psyche, because we were not willing to look at it, or we were scared to look at it, or we were indoctrinated by religious programming and taught not to look at it, that it's bad, that it's evil. You know, don't look at the divided parts of yourself, right? The demons, which are really just the demon and the angel, is they're all you, they're all aspects of you, just different frequencies. Especially when I look at astrology, I look at arced angles, right? Because when we talk about seeing angels, I see it fractals of light. When they're fractaling and they're arcing, right? Kind of like I would think a rainbow, then you would see the arced angle, right? The arced angle of who we are is really light beings. Right? So all of us in some degree, it's varying degrees we talk about in astrology, are these arced angles or arced angels. But depending on whether or not you're repressing your shadow, it can come up and it can rear its ugly head, and I would say a disagreeable way, right? Because I'm really trying to refrain from positive and negative and using this polarized language. It's more about, are we accessing an agreeable energy or a disagreeable energy, right? So we're going to go into a little bit of the screen share and looking at the exact full moon in Aries. We're also going to be pulling some cards from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck today, which I was really called to do for anybody watching in the now or now time future. And also I was called to pull from the Earth Magic, because we do have this opposition energy during this time period where Venus is going to be in Virgo, opposing the nodes at this point. So we're going to be looking at that. I'm also going to be pulling from the Sacred Rebel Oracle deck, because this is very, to me, a Uranian type of oracle deck card that I really like to work with. It's telling us where we need to rebel against even our own mental constructs, again, our own thinking, not necessarily to believe everything you think, because it's just a thought, and that thought form may or may not be organic and originated from you. So these are just, again, filtration systems to go through as you're, and I would say this not just for myself, but anybody that you are consuming content with and by, to filter it through your own gnosis, through your own inner knowing. This is the practice, right? We've got Jupiter in Cancer, learning to really tap into your own stomach, your own gut biome of truth. And if it doesn't feel true to you, please discard it. Just put it in the compost, right? But if there's something here for you that resonates, again, we live in a vibrational universe. So I hope some of this resonates and connects to you. And again, this is more of a metaphysical astrology channel. So, because I do tend to look at the bigger picture, I've got a lot of Sagittarius in my first house. So I tend to look at the higher, the big picture concepts, not so much the nitpicky opposition of Virgo. I don't do that. Or Gemini, just about information. I like to get to the wisdom aspect of it. So we're going to be telling stories here. We're going to be relating to real life, uh, connection points, real life happenings. And depending on what kind of media you're following right now, there's a lot of things happening on the world stage that are really bringing to light not only our own collective shadow, but the shadow of a nation, the shadow of our countries. So we have to look at that as well to get a really clear picture of who we are, where we've come from, and where we're going, right? And how can we stay present based on the information that we have now and based on truth, right? What is truth? So these are all questions, things to be looked at. And this is just going to be looked at from an astrological perspective. Again, this is very metaphysical. It's very intuitive. So let's go ahead and take a look at the chart. I'm going to screen share FaceTime camera. All right, let me do this here. There we go. And okay. We're going to share that. And I'm going to go to here. I want to make sure that okay. So this is the transit exactly October 6th. You can see here at 11:47 p.m. Eastern Standard. And I have Aries on the ascendant when I like to look at the wheel, just because it's just for organizational purposes. So you can see here that the moon, anytime there's going to be a full moon, the moon is always going to be opposite the sun. And you can see here, based on this particular program that I'm looking at, it's going to be at 14 degrees, 8 minutes. So here's the degrees, here's the minutes. And you can see that the sun is going to be in Libra. It's going to be almost at its halfway point in the Libra scale, since we are in Libra season until the end of October. So it is about balance. It's about balancing our relationships. It's about highlighting where we have been out of balance with service to self and service to others. We're also looking at, too, when I was looking at the screen here, we can see Mars, our action planet, is still in Scorpio. It's at 10 degrees at this point. And it's conjunct within a 3-degree orb to our Black Moon Lilith, which the archetype of Lilith is the aspect of us that will not be controlled, that will not be repressed. And so she's very independent. She's the aspect of us that wants truth, that is willing to fight for what she believes in. Again, she's in the aspect of Scorpio as well, which Scorpio is all about the underbelly. 8th house matters. It's a Plutonian ruled house. So Pluto is going to come in and not only reveal what action we need to take, where we've been maybe out of balance or hidden or repressed in our actions through Scorpio, but also where we need to stand up and to be that inner Black Moon Lilith, which is really, not allowing ourselves to be dominated anymore, right? And what's interesting, at that particular day, you can see that this is the symbol for Mercury. Mercury will just have ingressed into Scorpio at that time. And we can see that there's actually going to be a square happening with Pluto at its retrograde at 1 degrees in Aquarius. And again, Pluto rules the 8th house of Scorpio. So here's the planet of death, transformation, the underworld's coming in. It's going to be having a conversation with Mercury, which are typically, of all the gods in the zodiacal wheel, in the pantheon of gods, Mercury was the only one who could safely go back and forth to the underworld, right? It was the messenger of the gods through all the major gods, right? Poseidon, Zeus, and Hades. So this particular Hermes, right, messenger, this particular being has many names: Hermes, Mercury, Thoth is considered very hermetic, right? And I was even breaking down the word, the etymology of Hermes, which is he, her, and me. So if you also look at the etymology of Hermes, tends to be a very androgynous being, right? So Mercury being androgynous, both masculine and feminine, is able to go to the light and the dark, right? Is able to go to the heavens where Olympus and the gods dwell, Zeus and all of the pantheon of gods mostly live there. But Hermes, him, her, and me, right? He, her, and me, is also able to go to the netherworld, the dark matter, the Hades realm, right? The hell realms where we most other gods cannot go, right? So again, there's this androgynous aspect, which I also see psychospiritually as being able to navigate both the inner masculine and feminine, and not so much in terms of gender. We're really sort of evolving out of that, but more in terms of frequency, where if we are bioelectrical beings, bioelectrical biology and bioelectrical magnetic beings, the electric part of us would be the masculine and the feminine would be the magnetic part, right? So if you have that balance, if you have access to both portals within you, knowing that you carry these frequencies within you, then you're going to have an easier time through this square, because this is going to be a square energy, and squares are usually what are considered challenging aspects, meaning something has to shift or change within this frequency, within this particular field. And depending where this is happening in your chart, you might want to take a look to see where Scorpio is going to be aspecting. And if you want help and support, navigating this, you can always reach out to me. I'd love to be able to help you navigate these transits in your own individual birth chart. But collectively, we know that, again, I've got Aries on the ascendant. So this is just sort of like the generalized wheel, that we know this is all about eighth house matters. This Mars and energy, Black Moon Lilith, ingress, Mercury. And we can see here too that the opposition, this is the symbol for Venus. She's going to be in Virgo at 21 degrees. She's going to be opposing the North Node in Pisces at 18 degrees. So oppositions are also a challenging aspect. You think of like opponents in a ring, right? Opposing forces that have to battle it out to make each of them stronger, right? To develop a certain level of mastery. So what can that mastery denote, and how can we tie this all together? We know Venus is our love and money planet. In Virgo, she likes purity, purification. She likes orderliness, routine. She rules the sixth house in Virgo. So it's asking us to look at, are you doing what you love every day, and are you doing it routinely? And Virgo likes to be in the body. So it is about healthcare practices. It's about health needs. It's about, pharmaceuticals and natural health remedies. So this is a time for us also, too, you can see on the world stage where there's really this opposing energy of healthcare, the healthcare field in general, right? If you look at the pharmaceutical industries and what they're promoting and what's going on there with their food and substances and certain injections and things of that nature, right? Which would be more artifice, right? The pharmaceutical rather than the pharmacy, the natural farms, which would be more Virgo, right? So there's this opposing force with the needs and wants of what the collective is calling for. We want more natural products. We want to take things more naturally, more organic, routinely. This is also Virgo. And where we have been perhaps again, 12th house is all about institutions, prisons, imprisonment. So where we have imprisoned ourselves through our medical system because of what we have been utilizing for healthcare. And so this is going to be a huge reveal. Again, we're looking at Mercury, how we see things is really going to be looking at the underbelly of all the systems that are in play, the big governing systems, because I'm looking at Pluto right now, which rules big government, and plutocracy, right? Things that are more Plutonian ruled, old money, old systems, We think of like the stories that are going on right now with the Rockefellers, who they're the ones that establishes the American medical system, right? So anytime that you're going to be exchanging money for health, there's always going to be that undershadow of how can we really get healthy if there's going to be money made from us not being healthy, right? This is just for entertainment purposes only. That we are having these conversations. So just keep that in mind. This is something for you to just consider. This is just a story about astrology that we're all looking at, that we could be looking at, in a new way of disseminating, again, the information and the energies. Because Mars is going to be taking action. Mars wants to get to the root of the matter. Again, Mars wants to go deep. It wants to look at, especially with Black Moon Lilith being there, where we have been repressed, where perhaps certain substances, technologies, healthcare has been repressed, has been hidden from the public view. And so now this is all being brought to light right now because the sun is illuminating. Again, in Libra, it's about balance in our relationships. Where have we been out of balance within our own healthcare system, within our own governing bodies, within our food supply, right? Because people are starting to see too. And I'm looking at Sirius, which is almost opposite here. It's at 8 degrees Aries. Ceres is the heart. She's the asteroid of the harvest of the grain, right? How we take care of ourselves. Ceres is the beginning of the word cereal, right? So it's everything we harvest is the agricultural asteroid that points to our agriculture. So you can see on the world stage also what's happening. People that are angry. This is also Mars, and frustrated, things that are hidden of what's been in our food supply, right? And how perhaps things we've been spraying on our crops and on our agricultural fields have been actually poisoning us, right? Again, entertainment purposes only. So this is part of what this collective stirring has been bringing up and really activating a lot of us to take action, because Mars is the action planet. And again, it's the traditional ruler of Scorpio. So it feels very at home in Scorpio. It's very pointed focus. Even if you look at the symbols, I love sitting and just staring and working with the symbology. I see the arrow pointing up, right? And you even see the little glyph here with the arrow pointing up. So there's pinpointed focus with Scorpio. And in Mars, it's taking action with that pinpointed focus. So you may be really seeing people speaking up, again, because it's conjunct Black Moon Lilith within 3 degrees, and people thinking about these concepts that perhaps maybe they were repressed or didn't feel comfortable looking at or didn't want to because of their own cognitive dissonance. How can our own governing bodies be systemically poisoning us? How could that happen? How could our government be lying to us about what's going on in the world stage behind closed doors with the plutocracy, with big money, with big groups, organizations? How could this be? So you're starting to see that. And we also, what I'm seeing too, one of the saving graces is because Pluto in retrograde is going to be still trining Uranus, which is the planet of unexpected change. It's flashes of insight, aha moments in Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So there's going to be some really great reveals about what's been hidden, and perhaps I even say hidden technology that could help this planet heal pretty quickly, right? So there's been, I would say, repressed, because this is also Scorpio, anywhere we've been under subterfuge or repressed or hidden technologies that are already working, that are already in available to help clean up the planet, to help clean up our water systems, to help clean up our food supply, right? So, I'm even thinking too of the gut biome. I personally have been working with Zach Bush, Dr. Zach Bush's product, Ion, the gut support, and I found tremendous value. It's so simple. It's just humic acid made from ancient soils, but you take it before a meal every day, and boy, I feel such a difference in my gut biome, and I have clear thinking patterns. I've just been really focused on healthcare because of everything that's been happening. So, excuse me, really aligning with those beings that you find have similar values, have similar, not only values, but I would say temperament is the word coming in. Listen to when people speak. Don't just listen to their words, but feel the vibration when somebody is speaking, whether they're selling you any kind of supplement program or healthcare or whatever it is that's being transmitted. Really tune into the frequency and the energy. And again, let it go through that filtration system, because frequency doesn't lie. And so this is what Scorpio is going to be revealing right now, especially since Uranus and Aquarius is all about frequency. So this square is going to be showing us where there have been untruths, where people, especially people of power, people of recognition, people that we have elected to make these definitive decisions for us in terms of healthcare, of food, of a governing system, what's going on in the world stage, especially when it comes to politics and war, which is also very much Mars. We're starting to feel the frequency of how out of balance it truly is. So, us as a collective, which is Uranus and Aquarius, we're asking, what are we going to do about it? We're seeing these out of balances in the world stage. We're seeing these governing bodies outright lying and hiding and doing the old world systems back when they were doing it since, the 1940s or 50s, even when JFK was assassinated, right, or unalived. So this is like almost a pattern coming up to be repeated and to be recycled, to be relooked at. And what the question is, what are we going to do about it? Action. What are you going to see? What are you going to allow yourself to see your own cognitive dissonance, and to see that maybe those that you entrusted, those relationships that you had in power, this is also Pluto, where it's been out of balance, that it's not, they haven't really been for you. They haven't been for your highest and best interest. It's been more self-serving, right? We talk about in the conscious community, service to self, service to others. And so those in power we can see have really been in service to themselves in a very minority elite sort of group system, that if you're not in it, I think of George Carlin, right? There's a big group of people out there that rule the system, and you and I are not in the club, right? It's like this big club that rules everything, and you and I are not in it. Love George Carlin. Anyway, exuding truth through humor is actually really, to me, a powerful tool. But anyway, going back to this transmission, there's a lot to be looked at. There's a lot to be connected to. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing here and talk to you in your eyeballs. And so it's really up to you to figure out which frequency that you are most aligned with. And that's first and foremost about getting true with yourself, allowing yourself to tell yourself the truth about your own shadows, about where you have allowed yourself to be deceived because you didn't want to see. You wanted to, and I say this to myself too, because I tend to be a Pollyanna. I have all that Sagittarius. You would think I would be dark and brooding with all that Scorpio too, but I got a lot of Sagittarius to counterbalance it, thank goodness. So I tend to focus in the wolf that you feed, right? Is it the wolf of fear or the wolf of love and courage? And so that Sagittarius flow within me, thank goodness, helps me focus in on the wolf of love, right? I'm constantly feeding that aspect of that Pollyanna idealistic perspective, right? So I like to live in the idealistic world, but I also like to be grounded, and I like to know the truth of things, even if it's hard to handle, even if it's a truth I'm not willing to necessarily look at. It's important that I push my own boundaries, right? That I'm willing to really stay grounded with what's happening. So I maintain that idealism, right? The world that I really want to see. But then I've also got to be here grounded with the world that's in front of me, right? Because you've got to speak on the truth that's here first before you can speak and use your words on the truth that you want to invoke. Otherwise, you're just gaslighting yourself and other people if you're just only speaking on things you want to speak about and only look at the Pollyanna and only look at the bright side of life. Well, right now in Mars and Scorpio, it's saying, no, you've got to look at the shadow, because the shadow wants to be integrated. It wants to be acknowledged. It wants to be seen, and it wants to be loved. All aspects of self, even the aspects of self you don't like, right? So if you tend to find yourself jealous or petty or not able to forgive because you're hanging on to anger, look at that. Be willing to acknowledge that and see that, and hold that aspect of you. It's okay. A lot of this is learned in early childhood. A lot of this was inherited from our ancestors and their anger patterns, right? Because everything we talk about especially in architecture with Virgo season right now being entropy. It's like the structures of the mind that we inherited are dissolving. They're collapsing. I'm thinking like the Tower card and the Tarot card. And so it's okay to let these things go. They needed to dissolve because anything that's real or true, or that's the foundation is truth, it won't dissolve. It's going to be steadfast. And that's why there's been mystics that have been able to tell the truth about our consciousness, or tell stories or metaphors that we all resonate with, because it holds truth. Truth does not dissolve. Only the lie and the falsities will dissolve. And first, they have to dissolve within you. So I'm even thinking of like a membrane or like a mucoid film. We know a lot of us have been talking about parasites. And when the parasites die off, if you don't have some sort of binder to bind to, then when they're breaking off and they're dying within you, they're going to cause all kinds of ruckus and all kinds of toxicity within the body, right? So you need, it's divine alchemy is what this is. And this is also what very much the Scorpio is denoting right now. It's learning to be the divine alchemist, but you got to know the energies you're working with. So it's no more gaslighting yourself or others by only talking about what it is you want to see. No, you got to talk about the truth about where you are and who you are. And then love yourself, forgive yourself, do the inner work, right? Journal, meditate, move, somatic movements, right? Get into the body. Because once you can learn to honor your body systems and realize they're just part of the dance, it's all part of this holistic being that we all are. We are part of this one consciousness, this divine intelligence that is absolutely perfect. But the divine intelligence has a shadow, which is also perfect. That's contrast. It's being able to, and willing to see all aspects of self. So this is the conversation that wanted to come through. And I'm going to go ahead and pull a card now. If you guys, I'm going to pull first of all the Earth Magic Oracle deck's coming through right now. So I just wanted to take a breath, maybe get a sip of water. I'm going to take a sip of my. I've been drinking mineral water, sparkling mineral water. I've been loving it. Mineralizing the body. Drinking a splash of putting a Celtic sea salt, maybe some citrus in with it really helps. Just again with digestion, it's all about the gut, because the gut, your stomach is attached to your thoughts and your brain and how you think. And so this is again for you to deep dive in your own gnosis about your own healthcare journey, which is why I've been called to use the earth magic, because using organic tools helps you have a more organic experience. The more artificial your nutrition, the more artificial your experience. The more organic your nutrition, the more organic your experience. I know it sounds simplified in that way, but I call it the Occam's razor of spirituality. The simplest explanation tends to be the accurate one. So, yeah, eat more organic and have a better, more organic experience, in my opinion. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the Earth Magic Oracle. And again, I want you to take a breath, maybe put your hand over your heart, just being able to receive whatever it is you're willing to receive at this time and space. Let it be for your highest and best timeline experience. May it bring you peace and wisdom and an inner body wisdom, knowing that you are the divine intelligence that is part of everything and everyone in a symbiotic relationship with life and nature itself. And so it is, and so it is, and so it is. So coming from that space. So let's see what card wants to be pulled, wants to be looked at in terms of what do we need to know, especially during this Mars transit in Scorpio, what's been hidden, what needs to be revealed, what part of the earth can help us during this process, during this deeply alchemic time of transformation, of being willing to look at the shadow and hold those aspects of self. This came in really cloud. Okay, cloud, shape shifting. So I don't know about you guys, but I love to go outside and look at the clouds. That's part of one of my meditative practices, because as above, so below, I love to see the shapes and what the clouds are denoting. I feel like everything's a messenger if you choose to look at it that way. So going out in nature and seeing too, one of the downloads I received when I was doing this meditation with the clouds is how quickly things can shift, right? The weather, that's why we do the cosmic weather, right? Because the patterns are always changing and moving and shifting with the tides, just like our constructs, just like our ability to see the truth and to have an, I'm thinking of Uranus, right? Have a flash of insight, have an awareness, and then the whole landscape changes, right? All of a sudden you see a face in the cloud, and then it's a dragon, and then it's a bird, and then it's a tree, and, and it moves pretty quickly, right? So this is the ability for our perception to shift on a dime if you're willing to go in and do the work and to love your shadow and to see the things that have been hidden underneath not only your own structure but in the structure of what's going on outside of you, right? As within so without, because that's how we're going to change realities, by changing what we're seeing from the inside out, right? It's a collective experience. So we can do that through by our perceptions and by going out and maybe playing with the clouds, right? Going out in nature and seeing how things can change on a dime based on your frequency. So, working with your frequency, I've actually been really getting into Eileen McCusick's work. She is a doctor working with, I don't know if she's a doctor, but I know she has her master's, and she works with tuning forks. So that's going to be my next exploration, is working, really harmonizing and tuning my own field, right? Using a tuning fork, again, Occam's razor, something as simple as tuning up my own field can help me change my frequency and help shape shift what I'm perceiving real time, right? And I can do this for myself. This is self modulation. This is, self study. This is, and something that's very simple, is just doing a tuning fork and just working on your body's fields. And I would highly recommend you look into her work. She's been doing this for over 30 years. She has some really fantastic data points that talks about, it's very Virgonian, right? We still have this Virgo axis, Virgo and Pisces axis of, she's very grounded in her etheric knowings of how the body works, right? She's actually been able to map out the body through frequency and using tuning forks to really see where we've been out of balance and which time in our lives we became out of balance, whether it was early childhood, whether it was in our teenage years, as early adult, that actually is held in our field. So that's really interesting work, and it's to me it's revelatory. And again, it's very simple. It's something you can do for yourself. But again, changing the frequency is what's going to shapeshift and cloud shift and change what you're perceiving, right? So this is, again, divine alchemy. It's just knowing how to work with the body and knowing how to utilize these tools, which is very much Scorpio. Again, things that have been hidden, we may not have. There's no money in healthcare. There's only money in sick care. So if we're making money in the healthcare, and this is something that, again, I look at Scorpio, you're never going to have true health as long as somebody's making money off of your sickness. And that's why we need free healthcare. Again, entertainment purposes only. This is my own opinion, because if nobody's making money on it being healthy, then there's no, I would say, ulterior motive of keeping you sick, because nobody's making money off of it. If everything was free, healthcare was free, then nobody's making money off of health, and there's no motivation to steal somebody's health for somebody's pocketbooks. In my own personal opinion, again, entertainment purposes only. I feel like I have to say this in this channel, but next, I'm going to pull from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck. I really love this deck. It really, again, interweaves this North Node in Pisces, learning a very shamanistic approach to the energies and how to look at it in a very grounded way, and yet also too very etheric way. So these are the tools that I like to work with. This is why I'm drawn to certain cards and authors and illustrators that are, again, have that grounded, but also very etheric. So what do we need to know, anybody watching this right now? Okay, Eyes of the Eagle rising above the fray. I love this card, number 18. And I wanted to see if there was a number on that one, because numerology matters as well. Oh, I think I already put it away. Let's see if this has a number. Okay, that doesn't have a number. This has a number. So 18, 1 and 8 is 9. We know it's completion. We are in a 9-year astrologically. This is also the year of the wood snake, 2025. And ironically enough, the symbol for the eagle is also a symbol represented by Scorpio. Scorpio has many different animals that represent Scorpio. The gray lizard, the snake, the eagle, the phoenix, right? I think that I'm missing one. Oh, yeah, but the eagle is one of the archetypes of Scorpio. So the eagle is about rising above the fray, right? Really taking the, I love Pam Gregory's perspective when she says, maintaining your eagle's perch. That's very much what this card signifies, especially when you're just looking at the rounded eye. It's funny, if you check out my channel, I just had a whole download on the third eye atlas, because we have this comet that's approaching the Earth at the end of October, November, and they call it Three Eye Atlas. And the download that I had received early this Grand Rising was Third Eye Atlas. So this is interesting that this is almost like a third eye, right? It's really being able to focus in. And again, this Mars in Scorpio, it's very penetrative, it's very focused, it's being able to look, again, rising above the fray, seeing what's not only in the underworld, but being able to rise above it. I think of Mercury too in Hermes, that's able to go in and out of the underworld. So you want to go into the underworld, into the underbelly, and see what's there, right? And then you want to be able to rise out of it and get a higher perspective to see, well, what's right about this. I always like to ask, what's right about this? Because if we are divine intelligence and we are nature, and nature is perfect in her construction, in her symbiotic nature with all things, then how is this underbelly, underworld revelation helping humanity to evolve? Right? What we have to see where we are to see where we're going, but we got to see where we've been, and in an honest way. So this eagle eye approach is really going to help you to stay clear. Again, the card reads, because I've read this card many times, it's about rising above the fray, and about you know, there's pigeons that are squabbling for scraps, and you're just going to be the eagle that flies above it all. And you can see right now, especially on the world stage, there's a lot of pigeons that are squabbling about if whether or not, this bullet hit that, and there was blood on this, and you know what I'm talking about in the world stage right now. And so this is, getting to the truth. What is real? What is the lie? What has been hidden? What has been repressed? And what has systematically, where have we been um, lied to about this whole reality construct on so many levels, not only our healthcare systems, but our food systems, the way our body works. I mean, the whole thing is up for evaluation, and to look at the underworld of humanity and all our governing systems. So the last card deck that I'm going to pull from, and again, this is an homage to Uranus and Gemini, with also Pluto and Aquarius, because Aquarius is all about the rebel. This is the Sacred Rebel Oracle deck by Alana Fairchild. So I'm going to pull from this Oracle card deck to see what we need to know, what needs to be illuminated. We're holding our eagle eyes perch. We're cloud shape shifting. I think of two with the shape shifting of the clouds. If anybody's ever seen Men Who Stare at Goats, that movie with George Clooney, while he's like cloud bursting, using his mind to cloud burst. I think that's hilarious. But there's also something to that, right? So you might want to check out that movie just for entertainment purposes. But this is also the government, and this is a true story, how the government's been studying psychic phenomenon since from what we know, back in the 50s and 60s. I would say even further back than that. So, the government and psychosis and psychology and remote viewing and all that they're deeply connected, and have been for quite a long time, but we've just never been able to see it, which is also something that this Mars and Scorpio reveal is going to show us. Things that have been in plain sight that we haven't been able to see, because again, we may have been entertainment purposes only. We may have been drugged based on pharmaceuticals and things we've been eating and drinking. So it's created some sort of mass, I would say, hypnosis, right? Almost like a drugging effect, if you will, has how I've experienced it, coming into clarity more and more. So what does the Sacred Oracle deck want to reveal to us? Staying above the fray, and also cloud shifting, which is changing our perspective by changing our frequency. And this is another 9. Okay, so the first, the Shaman's deck was 18, which is a 9, and here we have 45, which is Pandora's gift, right? Opening Pandora's box. So there's also a 9 there happening. So, we know the archetype of Pandora, and, her opening the box that the fates had given her. And then, of course, the last gift, it was, and it was all the furies that came out of Pandora's box, right? Death, famine, war, all the old lower realm energies came out of Pandora's box, but the last energy to be let go or to be released was also hope, right? So this is also telling me that if she's looking too, she's looking down in her heart, that the heart is really where it's at, that no matter what you encounter in your own deep diving with what's going on psychologically in this nation, within yourself, the underworld, the shadow aspects of self, that really the last energy that we can really utilize for healing, for growth, for evolution is hope, is that we know that this is not just happening in vain, that there is something to this energy. That even though we're going through a shadow or dark period or disconnected period of the Kali Yuga phase, whatever, however you're describing this energy, we're at the end of a cycle, 45, 9, we're in completion. This is the end of a reality timeline, of a spell cast, of I would say, a drugged dream that we've all been under. This is the end cycle of it right now. And so with all these retrograde, the outer transpersonal planets that are still retrograde right now, meaning Uranus and Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, we're having to go back and really look at these shadow aspects so that we can heal them. You got to feel it to heal it. You got to acknowledge it first within yourself. And then you got to acknowledge and see what's really before you with clear eyes, right? With a clear body, with a clear heart. And that usually starts with clear organs, clear systems. So again, we just came out of the Virgo season going into Libra, which is balance in our relationships. So inviting in this routine, the routine of purifying so that you can get to the truth of what's really been in front of you this whole time, and rectifying the shadow aspects that, again, have been creating chaos and putting us out of balance, so that we can get to the truth of our next evolutionary stage. Because come 2026 is a 1 year. We're completing the ending of many cycles here, and we're getting ready to start a whole new frequency. So if you can manage your frequency now, real time, by managing what you focus on, what you surround yourself with, what you eat, what you drink, again, consuming more organic, you have more of an organic experience of life. Consuming more artificial stuff, you're going to have more of an artificial experience of life. It's just common sense. It's just something, again, I like to call it the Occam's razor of consciousness. Usually the simplest explanations tends to be the correct one. So a very grounded approach to this energy. So if you are connected to this channel, if you liked any of this content, I would invite you to share it, like it, please subscribe, send it to friends and family who might also connect to this. And I'm going to be doing more, what I'm being called to do, especially for the month, because we've got right now Mars ingress into Scorpio till November 4th. And I have a Discord channel that I like to get to deep diving into these concepts and get to a little more gnosis with these things, especially when it comes to the underbelly of what's happening in society. And I feel like that particular channel is more safe than just the social media. So just please put in the comments if anybody here is willing and wanting to maybe do hi, I keep spinning. Oh, Renee. Oh, sorry about that. Show one. Let's see. All right, maybe here we go. Maybe that'll help. Okay. Anyway, if you guys want to deep dive with me onto my Discord channel, we can go even deeper into these concepts, talking about things that maybe are not so safe to talk about within the main platform streams. But if you are interested in astrology, you want to deep dive and go into more of a metaphysical concept of astrology and what that really means, and just talk to other like-minded folks who are interested not only in astrology but consciousness and evolving, and just some of the things we talked about today. So please join my Discord channel for that. We're going to be going live. If you guys are interested in that, let me know, because I will set out a time and day between now, especially November 4th. I'm feeling right now, Thursdays might be a good day for that we can connect together, maybe 7 p.m. Thursdays. Let's do like an hour conversation, hour and a half. We can pull up the birth charts. If you're feeling safe, we can also, look at your own birth chart and just again, it's about community building and collaborating with those that are like-minded, like-hearted, and they want to deep dive into these concepts, but want to use astrology as the language, because it tends to be a very neutral language and a way to explain these energies that we can all feel empowered by, right? And actually do something with it, create action, not just speaking the words, but how can we transform, especially psychologically, because Scorpio is a very deeply psychological, very sexual, it's very primordial sign. And so if we can have these higher level concepts together in a very sacred container, I think that would be an amazing experience. So let me know if you guys are interested in that. Again, I'll be starting that on Thursdays. And I guess today's Wednesday. So, yeah, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Just let me know. I'll send you a link and we can deep dive into these concepts further. So thank you guys so much for watching and connecting to the channel. I so appreciate your time and your energy for just being here and viewing and having this cosmic conversation with me. I'm so grateful for this community. I love you guys so much. And thank you for connecting and being here in this now moment. I'll see you in the next transmission, guys. Thank you so much.